Well, look, let's move on to this. Alex, let's bring you in at this point because I mentioned on Monday that Boris Johnson. I showed the little video clip of him arriving at the European Council meeting where the PESCO deal was done, and we showed how Boris was blustering his way through 90% of what he had to say. In the last couple of sentences, he sort of tipped his hat to Defence Union and said that Britain's role in this was to be the flying buttress to the EU's cathedral of Defence Union. And of course, we saw nothing in the mainstream media about the European Council meeting, and we saw nothing, or well, I speculated offline off this programme with Patrick Henningsen about whether when the Foreign Office put that Boris Johnson's statement up on the Foreign Office website, whether that would be the Defence Union comments would be edited out, and indeed they were. So we had complete radio silence in the UK from the Foreign Office to the mainstream media over this. Not so in on the mainland of Europe. And you've put an article up on the UK Column website, how the Dutch press reports EU military union.
Yes, Mike, and as you can see the Dutch headline there, under the video of Mogherini, that very video which has not made it to the British mainstream press, that's there in Algemeen Dagblad, a Rotterdam paper, and then the headline is Nederland tekent voor Europese defensie. So straight away, the Netherlands signs up to a European Union military. Well, defensie can mean armed forces or defence, but note that even at the stage of the headline that there's no mealy-mouthed nonsense about cooperation. The body of the text, which I've summarised on the next slide from the Algemeen Dagblad, shows that there has been fear of hollowing out of NATO over the decades. And they even point out a date which I wasn't aware of during the 1950s when this was all coming together, Mike, is that the Assemblée Nationale, the French Parliament under de Gaulle, and just before they revised their constitution, in fact, so this wasn't even in the Fifth Republic, but the Fourth, they said no to the cooperation or PESCO as it now is, because they could see which way the wind was blowing. And the Dutch journalist puts in an exclamation mark that it's taken 60 years to get further. And he's also noted correctly that it was the Franco-German axis that drove it. And then we see, as you switch to there, that Brussels, as the Dutch journalist is reporting, has already allocated the first €500 million of money, which has been siphoned off from national projects, of course, to promote the fusing of industrial defence industries. And then at the end, we see the Dutch journalist admitting that this is going to mean the breaking open, as he puts it himself, opengebroken in Dutch, the breaking open of the defence industry and forcing them to compete for tenders on a Europe-wide basis. And very tellingly at the bottom, after we see that the admission to the Dutch reader that, yes, actually our Navy and Air Force are already intertwined with Belgium and our army is already under German command, it says, soon all member states will have units which are interoperable. And this is a phrase which has been upon us since the turn of the millennium, hasn't it, Mike? And now we see what the meaning was, even when it was used in Britain in the civil service, let alone the military back in 2000-ish. We now see what that means. It means independent of which umbrella and acronym it goes with. So it's globalism, the iron fist of globalism, in the velvet glove of interchangeable acronyms is how I now understand the term interoperable, because interoperable here is defined as units which can be used either for NATO, EU, UN, or other operations. So we can play as many musical chairs as we want, but globalist configurations will continue to use the same troops, the same grunt work. As a codicil to that, and it's difficult to say anything about recruitment policy without sounding snobbish, but I'm going to go for it, we've had deliberate policies in army recruitment in particular, less so in the other services, of keeping certain areas of the northeast of England, the central belt of Scotland, the South Wales valleys depressed and devoid of other work opportunities in order to recruit the young men. And some recruiting sergeants have written to companies openly accepting that. Now the French and Germans are doing the same. They don't have the Fijians to recruit or the Gurkhas, but they're now openly saying, both, first of all, the Germans, which has become a security issue in Germany, and now Macron, now he's clinging ever closer to this German axis. They're openly saying, well, you needn't be a citizen of our country or even a citizen of an EU member state in order to serve in any of our national militaries under this PESCO umbrella. So we're very soon going to see Arab, Slav, whatever mercenaries serving having to make up the bulk of this military, which in turn is going to be interoperable with civilian policing operations to quell internal dissent.
And that is the real dangerous aspect of this, because this is something that I'll just remind everybody. Federica Mogherini and Jens Stoltenberg were really pushing very hard at the October-November 2015 European Defence Agency conference. This intermingling and this merging of civilian and military functions, this goes alongside what we've been seeing with PESCO.
Yes, this is it. There's going to be, I think it's so interoperable. If we look at the top level blocks, if you look at our Joel Skousen interview, and others have said the same, if the EU decides to hang America and to make the best of a bad lot and cut loose from America for various reasons, such as isolationism, as it's sometimes derided as, or whatever, if the Orwellian three power blocks shift so that Eurasia and East Asia are together against Oceania, shall we say, then with the new Chinese infrastructure developing, you could easily see even Chinese units or even African mercenary units serving through train-borne shuttling being deployed in Western Europe if there are problems there, dissent. So I think I can really see that coming now. This is going to be the army for the world island, to put it in Sir Halford Mackinder's terms. Everything that isn't the Americas and Oceania is going to be in this military system, as far as I can see, with the City of London presiding over it.